Hi, it's me again. I thought we could talk about this story that's been doing the rounds about a TV licence enforcement officer who's been talking about her work. I think this came out before. This seems like a rehash. I remember seeing this, and yeah, I thought we could just talk about it because I've been approached by quite a few people claiming to be TV licence enforcement officers or ex-TV licence enforcement officers, and I haven't been able to substantiate. They wanted to talk. If I hide their voice or whatever, they'll answer questions, stuff like that. I couldn't substantiate that they work there. You know, they wouldn't provide me any ID or anything like that. So it could just be some bloke saying it. So it wasn't worth the aggravation. But this is in walesonline.co.uk. So they must have done their due diligence and their checks and everything. So it'd be fair to talk about. So this is a lady TV licence enforcement officer, and there are not many of them. So let's see what she's got to say about it, and then I'll probably end up, I don't know, kicking off somewhere, knowing me. A woman who used to work as a TV licence enforcement officer has spoken of the danger and violence she faced on more than one occasion, but says she still loved the job. So is this just a puff piece to get us to respect TV licence enforcement officers a bit more? Because there's a lady enforcement officer, and she's saying she faced danger and violence and was worried. So we should be nice to them anyway. Do you know what I mean? But is this a puff piece to make us feel better about TV licence enforcement officers? That'd be interesting. It wouldn't surprise me, because you've got to remember, TV licensing have all those PR agencies. I think it's 6 agencies. I've got them saved, and we're going to talk about it one day. And they're on multi-million-pound contracts. So they put out a lot of stuff like this, a lot of puff pieces. Let's continue. Amy joined the enforcement service as a teenager and worked with the organisation for 3 years, frequently facing dangerous situations as she approached people to check if they've paid for BBC radio and TV services. Radio? You don't pay for radio services. They're not included as part of the TV licence. The clue's in the title. Wales Online. It's a TV licence. She has spoken about having to dive over a police counter for safety, being trapped in a bedroom by a man whose house she was inspecting, and being surrounded by a gang of youths. But Amy says it was also a satisfying job, sometimes selling 30 licences a day. Amy said she joined Capita TV licensing out of sixth form instead of going to university. I don't know. Does that sound right to you? I'm going to have a look, because they're always advertising TV licence enforcement officer jobs. Let's have a look, because I don't think they advertise for teenage girls to go visiting. They tend to rely somewhat on the intimidation, don't they? And you're not going to be intimidated mostly by a teenager knocking on your door who's straight out of sixth form, are you? Well, that took a lot longer than normal to find. Well, normally I'm finding loads of these enforcement officer jobs. I talked about them. It took a while to find one this time. So, as a visiting officer for TV licensing, your role will be to visit selected residential addresses. You must be able to complete paperwork legibly, hit targets, because it's a sales job, not an enforcement job. That's what you got to remember. It's a sales job. The ability to deal with some conflict and difficult customers with a firm but fair approach. Really, they must have been pissing themselves with laughter when they wrote that. You must have a car that you can use for work, and your mileage will be reimbursed at 45p a mile. Doesn't say if they pay you insurance for business use of that vehicle. And you're not self-employed, are you? No, you're a full-time employee. So surely they must. They've never answered that, though. But anyway, yeah, I'm surprised at that. I thought you had to be like an ex-copper or an ex-bailiff or something like that. Right, where's that story gone? She said, I started off in the call centre taking phone calls from customers. I've heard good things about the call centre people. I might have to take that back now, but I never hear many complaints about them. But it was just a job. But as someone who loves meeting people and getting out and about, I was instantly drawn to the position of enforcement officer. Loves meeting people. Yeah, because everyone's friendly and wants to have a nice conversation with a TV licence enforcement officer. Don't they, Amy? I joined what was then the Liverpool team and was welcomed by a group of mainly male, ex-military or retired police officers. Yeah, that's who you expect. That's the kind of people they like to have in the position, because they know how to intimidate people. Ex-military can be quite intimidating. Most of them are good people, granted, don't get me wrong. Retired police officers built their career on intimidating people. Bailiffs, things like that. They love employing them because they can stand there. They know how to stand that makes them look authoritative. They know how to hold the clipboard that makes them look like they've got some authority. That's how they sell so many licenses. I'm not convinced she was really a visiting officer, to be honest. I was trained up by a Liverpudlian called Lawrence, who was remarkably patient and told me when visiting certain areas of Liverpool, officers had to work in twos because of the dangers involved. I'm unsurprised at that. Amy said that people were usually friendly when she approached them, adding, as a relatively young enforcement officer, as someone who no doubt looks far from the official debt collecting type, I often found people were happy to open the door to me only to discover the nature of my visit. How do you know what you look like until you've opened the door? If she knocked on my door, I'd open the door. Because I don't know who's on the other side of the door. I don't have a Ring doorbell camera. I've got CCTV. It doesn't matter. I'd open the door and I'd go, hello, who are you? And she's like, oh, hello, my name's Amy. I'm from TV Licensing. I would treat her exactly the same as I would treat one of the ex-military or retired copper goons. No, thank you. And I would shut the door. So yes, we might be polite when we open the door and see a young blonde girl, but the politeness will stop when I slam the door in your face. Amy said despite the good pay, the job was dangerous. The job was incredibly well paid and I could sometimes double my wage with commission earned from the sale of a TV licence. We don't know how much they earn in commission. There's talk out there that it's between sort of 20 to 25 quid per sale. I don't know if they get commission for referring you up the chain for not paying, so you can get a court visit or a fine or whatever. I don't know. I would imagine they do get commission for that. I don't know. I'd love to know. I'd love to know. If a genuine TV licence enforcement officer out there can prove that they have worked there, I won't share your details. Contact me so we can have a proper chat. On another occasion in Great Harwood, I was invited inside a man's house to inspect it after he told me he didn't have a TV. So TV licensing were happy to send out a young, naive, she's trying to act like she's naive, blonde teenage girl on her own to do a job that involves going into strangers' homes to inspect their equipment. Who was that estate agent that was sadly murdered in a similar thing? Was it Susie Lamplugh or something? How can Capita allow that? This is why this sounds like a fake puff piece to me, because that doesn't sound like something that you would do, right? It doesn't sound, Capita are pure evil, obviously, but are they that evil that they would let a young, naive teenage girl go into strangers' homes alone, that she's just knocked on the door? Is she that naive personally that she would do it? If so, then she was in the wrong job for doing that as well. I can't imagine a more dangerous thing for a teenage girl alone to be doing than knocking on strangers' doors and asking to come in. That's why this sounds like a dodgy puff piece to me. I was invited inside a man's house to inspect it after he told me he didn't have a TV. Whenever anyone says this to an enforcement officer, we have to ask if we can look inside. Yes, you can ask, but you can't demand it. It's dependent on how you ask. And if we are told no, you can't come in. Why anybody allows these people in is beyond me. But anyway, after a cursory glance downstairs and spotting no television, I was making my way to leave when the man said, hang on, you need to look upstairs too. My naivety led to me saying okay, and I walked up the stairs with the man behind me. It just sounds like the most dangerous situation you could ever put yourself in, Amy, and that's why I'm calling some amount of bullshit on your claims. Did she ever work as a TV? I don't know. I have my doubts. I have my doubts on this one. Maybe she did a trial because she was working in a call centre and doesn't work there now. So she's just trying to sell it for the 500 quid to the paper. But what company would allow that to happen? And how naive do you have to be to do that, to go upstairs with the man behind in a strange house? Anything could have happened. If this is true, I'm glad it didn't happen to you, Amy. But why put yourself in that position? Ridiculous. Some streets, estates and towns were better than others. You know, for example, if you had a visit for a very big fancy house, you would likely find it was either empty or the occupants had just moved and hadn't changed the address on their licence yet. On the other hand, I always relished receiving a batch of visits for a huge estate in Wigan, as I knew I would likely come away having sold as many as 30 licences in a day. It's a sales job, And sales job revolves around numbers. I've done it myself. The more people you can talk to in a day, the more chance you've got of selling. That's why if you live out in a country like me, you might not get a visit, because if you're the only person in the village you live in who's not paying it, are they going to waste their time coming all the way for you to either not be in or say no thanks or whatever, when they can go to a big council estate in Wigan and smash doors all day long and try and sell licenses? I wish they didn't sell any licenses. We just need to get the message out there to people that if they open the door and it's an enforcement officer, no thanks, shut the door. That's it. They can't do anything. But I'm calling some level of bullshit. I'm calling some level of bullshit on this. And this is written by Amy Fenton, who now works for Lancs Live, or this local paper conglomerate. So she's a senior reporter now. So she's no longer a TV license enforcement officer. She's padded that. I'm calling bullshit on most of it. Yeah. She's going to make a good reporter, isn't she? She'll get a job at the BBC. Get a job at the BBC telling stuff like that. And there's a picture of her on there with just some random lads. That's the only picture she's got of her back there. I've had loads of jobs, and I've got a picture of me doing all my jobs. Here's me when I was straight out of school and working. Here's me in my first office job. Where's the pictures of it? Has she not got a picture of her badge or anything? How long ago was this? We don't know. We don't know. And no one knows, because it's absolute nonsense. No company would put a young teenage girl in that situation, and a normal young teenage girl wouldn't put herself in that situation. Calling bullshit. What do you think? Let me know your thoughts on it down in the comments below. As always, thanks for watching. Hit all the buttons and everything while you're down there leaving your comment. And if you do that, hopefully I'll get to see you in another video again soon, won't I? Ta-da.